But my treatment path has been long and arduous, but it really hasn't stopped me from living a full, complete, and happy life. So as I said earlier, my treatment began with an emergency surgery. That was the colectomy to remove the tumor in my colon, which had grown so large that it had created an intestinal blockage. From there, I partnered up with Dr. Lenz and began the treatment regimen. The protocol was 6 rounds of chemo, massive surgery with Dr. Sugarbaker in Washington, D.C., which I'll describe in a minute. And then it was a sandwich method. It was chemo, surgery, chemo. So I had 7 rounds of FOLFOX and Avastin. It's usually 6 rounds, but I did very well with treatment, and so we fit in an extra one for kicks, for good measure. And in February of 2011, I had a very radical surgery with Dr. Sugarbaker of Washington Hospital Center in Washington, D.C. Unlike most colon cancer patients, my disease did not spread to my liver. It spread to my peritoneum, which is my abdominal cavity lining. And this surgery is meant to cure, it's a curative approach to remove all of the disease in the peritoneal cavity, as well as any disease that has kind of sat on top of organs. So basically, this disease isn't like a tumor, a mass in an organ. It's almost like sprinkles of grains of sand that sit on top of the organs and begin to kind of seed in there and make their home there. So that surgery was to get all of that out, along with the organs that had been exposed to it, and then to pour heated chemotherapy in my open abdominal cavity. And that surgery took 11 hours. There were 17 separate procedures done. I woke up in the ICU with 13 tubes in my body. But luckily, fortunately, Dr. Sugarbaker had removed all visible disease. Now, that didn't mean I was completely out of the woods because we had to see the path report and everything else, but all visible disease resected gave me a very strong leg up in this fight. And without it, I know I wouldn't be alive. And so I healed from that surgery. I restarted chemo 2 months later. I had 6 more rounds of FOLFOX and Avastin. And it looked, my CEA was low, scans looked pretty good. It's hard to tell with this kind of surgery. Things are inflamed and, it's never a perfectly clean scan. I've never had a perfectly clean scan. But we felt confident enough that I could stop treatment for the time. And so I had a 4-month break, and during that time I went to Hawaii and England and Paris and, had a great time and went back to work. I had been on a 10-month leave of absence from my job at the firm and returned back to work in August. But during the month of August, we saw my CEA rise and realized, there's still disease there. And so we almost didn't even call it a recurrence because it never completely went away. And the path report, as I said, wasn't completely clean. So I went back on treatment September of 2011 with Fulfuri and Avastin. I continued on that until January of 2012 when I had an abdominal exploratory surgery to see what was going on in there. And we took most of the disease out. Most of the disease was actually in my scar from my previous surgery. But my surgeon also found a few lymph nodes that he really couldn't remove. And so I was closed back up and resumed chemotherapy. So to date, I have had 54 rounds of chemotherapy. Earlier this year in 2013, I actually had a very slight progression of disease, a lymph node in my chest area. So I had 10 rounds of radiation and blasted that sucker. And so it's shrunk and completely under control now. So 54 rounds of chemo, 10 rounds of radiation, 3 surgeries, and still going strong.
For an interactive tool to learn more about your colon cancer and your personalized treatment options, go to mycoloncancercoach.org.